Hi everyone, it's Alice from the Real Houses of the Bay Area. Welcome back. I really wanted to talk with you guys about all the players that are part of a home renovation team. So if you've ever done a renovation or if you're considering a renovation, this is going to be important for you to know. So if you know anybody else who's kind of in the same space, meaning they're thinking about doing a renovation or they are in the process of doing a renovation, maybe they're doing it themselves or maybe they even hired contractors to do it for them, this is good information for them to know. So please share this video, invite them to join us. Who are some of the players in a home renovation project? I think traditionally people only know that you would hire a general contractor, a GC, right? So that's probably the most well known. This is somebody who should be licensed, and they're going to be the person that oversees all of the subs, and subs meaning subcontractors. So there's many layers of people on a team when it comes to your home renovation. Depending on what it is that you do or you're having done, would then determine who is needed for that particular project. So let me just give you a general example. Like if we're not talking about a complete new build, if we're not talking about knocking down an entire house and rebuilding it, generally speaking, most people are not doing that. Most people are going to be remodeling some room in their house, be it a kitchen, be it a bathroom, or even if you're remodeling the interior of your home, you're not, generally speaking, taking everything apart and starting over, meaning the structure of the home. But there are going to be situations where you will need other players, and I'm going to talk about that. So for the most part, people are going to be hiring a general contractor. And what the general contractor's role is they are the one that should be getting your permits. So if you are doing work using permits, they would be the person that would help you, assist you with that process. And that is through your city, and every city is a little bit different, but if, for the most part, let's talk about permits for a second. For the most part, every city wants you to pull a permit for anything you plan to touch in your home. So whether it's a bathroom, whether it's a kitchen, if you're installing new windows, they want you to get a window permit, and that's usually done with a window company. If you are touching anything electrical in your home, they want you to get a permit. The only thing that you don't need a permit for is, like, let's say you're gonna paint, or if you're changing out flooring inside your home. But and every city, like I said, is gonna be a little bit different, but a lot of times they want you to pull a permit. Now, does everybody pull a permit for every little thing that they do? No, and that's the reality. But here's my advice. If you live on a busy street, if there's a lot of construction going on in your neighborhood, and so what does that mean? That means that inspectors are driving up and down your street on a regular basis. If it's super obvious that you're having stuff done at your house, my recommendation is get a permit, because the last thing you want to have happen is you get tagged for not pulling permits to do work in your house. Because if you've got contractors walking in and out of your house all day long, they're in your front lawn, they've got their saws going, they've got all kinds of stuff. It's so obvious that you're having work done, and they don't have you on their agenda. They don't know inspector, and some of them are super cool, and some might be like, I didn't know that they got it. I don't think they got an inspection, and they look you up and you don't. They can tag you and you get fined, and that is a hot mess. So if you're gonna do stuff on the down low, and people do it, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna warn you, you wanna be a little more cautious and conspicuous with your activities. So have your guys work in the backyard and not the front yard. Don't have your garage door wide open with all kinds of activity happening. Now, there are certain things that there's no way you can hide it. For instance, if you're doing roof work, it's pretty obvious you're getting roof work done. I would highly recommend that you get a permit for that. So anyway, I digress. Your general contractor is going to be the one that pulls the permits for you. Now, if you did not hire a general contractor, you can pull a permit as a homeowner. So know that that is an option for you. So if you decided that you were not hiring a general contractor to oversee the entire project, you as a homeowner have the ability to go down to the city and pull a permit as a homeowner. Okay, It's also their job as a general contractor to make sure that everything meets code, right? And that's the purpose of getting the permits, because you want to make sure that everything meets code and that you pass inspection. So this is something that I did this morning where we passed part of our inspection. We didn't pass the entire inspection. And again, this is a project that I recently took over because the contractors are totally MIA. And so we're kind of picking up the pieces, and they did a lot of shoddy work, and we're having to undo and redo stuff, which really sucks. But that's another subject. Now, underneath a general contractor, there's a lot of subs or subcontractors for different aspects of the project. Let's just kind of go in order of things that need to be done. So generally speaking, when you're doing a project, the first thing you're going to need to do is rough electrical and rough plumbing. So you'll need an electrician. This is the person that handles all of the electrical work in your house. So if you need to upgrade your sub panel, because if your house was older and now you're installing all these new and improved upgraded appliances and needing all kinds of electrical, you're going to be pulling a lot of power because you're running multiple televisions and all the computers and all of that. You're going to need to upgrade your electrical panel. If you needed to upgrade lighting in your house, let's say you're installing lots of recessed lighting, that happens a lot. Because, you know, originally homes don't have a lot of lighting and there's no recessed lights. So you're lucky if you have one light fixture in the middle of a bedroom. Many don't. You know, you had to do a plug-in light. So if you're upgrading and installing ceiling light fixtures, you want to make sure that your electric panel can handle that. That's where the electrician comes in. And so anything to do with electrical, that's the electrician's job. And just because you're a general contractor doesn't mean that you're versed in all of these areas. I just want to give that put that out there, just so you know. Then there's the plumber. So if you're doing anything in your kitchen and bath, you're going to need a plumber. So this is the person that's going to make sure that any new and improved fixtures that you are installing in your home, the right pipes are in, the right valves are in, all of the grading is done properly, the venting is done properly. There's a lot that's involved in plumbing. And also, if you have old pipes, you need to upgrade pipes to copper pipes. There are homes that have clay pipes, like my sister has a house that's over 100 years old. She has clay pipes in San Francisco, and trees and roots were growing into it, and there was a bad situation with stuff backing up. That is not pretty. Most homes have galvanized pipes, which is that rust over time, and that's something you want to upgrade because just for the health of your home. And everything that involves water going through those pipes and coming through to you. So electrician, plumber. And then there's a drywall person. So anytime you are opening up a wall, you open up the wall, you're going to have to put the wall back up, and that includes drywall. After drywall, there's also the taper and texture guy. And this could be one and the same, or it could be two separate, because taping and texturing is actually a specialty. Taping meaning once you put the drywall up, there's seams, and so you got to tape the seams, and then you got to add the texture. And so it could be that orange peel texture, it could be smooth texture, it could be plaster. So those are the different types of textures that could go up in your home. Then there's your painter. This is a specialty as well. So painting can be done by you, but I tell you, a professional painter is worth every penny, because I've done enough painting in my day. I don't love painting, and I can never cut in just right. And they're so good at it because they do it every single day that they can just freehand it, and it's just perfect. Whereas I'm sitting there taping everything off and making sure I don't drip, and it just takes so much longer. And plus, there are times that you've got 2-story walls, you've got areas that just is not as simple as, you know, just a standard 8-foot ceiling square space. You know what I'm saying? So you've got a painter. Then you need somebody who's a good carpenter. Could be a handyman, but a good carpenter is so worth every penny because they are going to do a lot of the finishing work for you. So whether they're installing your cabinetry, they're putting in your baseboards, they're doing all the crown molding, they're doing all of the trim on your doors, they're hanging your doors, all those little things, they're installing knobs. I mean, there's so many things to a home renovation, all the little things that you don't really think about that require someone to do it and somebody who knows what they're doing. So you need a good carpenter or handyman. Then a tiling person. Let me tell you, it took me years to find a really good tile guy. And a tile guy is an art. Once you see really shoddy work and then you see really good work, it's amazing. It's crazy because everywhere I go, whether it's somebody's house or every single hotel I stay at, I'm looking at their tile work and I'm studying the grout lines. I'm studying how flush everything is and how they finished all the edges. It's a problem. It really is a problem because I shouldn't be looking at this, but I do because it is so hard to find a really, really good tile person. I've worked with so many awful tile people. It's frustrating because tile is not one of those things you could just fix easily. It's not like you can cut one little one out and just adjust it. It requires somebody who knows what they're doing. And depending on the patterns, they need to know exactly how to plan it out so that things are even, so that you don't end up with a small tile on the bottom and a big fat tile on top, and all that jazz. And if you're doing borders, if you're doing other types of designs, they need to be able to lay it out and know exactly how it's going to be installed. They need to adjust for drainage, so they need to know exactly how that's done. And not every tile is easy. If you're doing a linear drain, they need to know how to accommodate for that. There's so many things involved with tiling. A good tile guy is so worth it. And this is the finishing work. This is what you're gonna see. This is not behind the scenes. This is not something that you can just cover up easily, and it's expensive to take everything apart and start over. So make sure you get yourself a really good tile person, especially if you're planning to do fancy stuff. It's important. Another person that would be involved in your renovation would be your HVAC person. So it could be heating and cooling. So this is somebody who's working with your furnace, your heating, and then also with any kind of air conditioning. And these days, the Nest thermostats are really popular and everybody is switching out of the old school thermostats and installing these. Let me tell you, not everybody knows how to install this. This actually requires somebody who is in the HVAC industry. Getting a regular electrician, I've asked so many, they don't know how to install it. I don't know what the intricacies are with the wiring, but honestly, it's different from just old school thermostats that you could just connect. I guess it's kind of like if you used to work on cars and you're really good with working with old cars and you know how to put it together, but then all the new cars have got computer chips and all kinds of fancy stuff. It's the same concept, so keep that in mind. Roofing, you have a roofing specialist. So this is not somebody, just anybody can put roofing, and there's all different kinds of roofing, right? So you've got your composite roofs, you've got your clay roofs, you've got your slate roofs. Knowing, like for instance, if you're doing a slate roof, you need to make sure that you have enough support underneath, because slate is very, very heavy. So imagine like piling, you know, many pieces of slate all across your roof and not having the right support, that your whole roof is going to come crashing in. That is not a good day. So make sure that you have somebody who knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. And then you have your flooring specialist, and there's all different categories of flooring. You know, you've got your carpet people. Not everybody knows how to install carpet. You've got your tile. Again, there's tile, and you want to make sure, think about it. When you are walking on a floor, you want to make sure that all of your tile is level so that you're not feeling different elevations. You know, everything should be smooth. I should not feel where one tile meets another tile. Do you understand what I'm saying? So everything should be flush. And that is a skill. Again, you don't watch a YouTube video and decide to tile your floor and expect it to turn out the way it's supposed to turn out. Then you have, there's vinyl, which is still around, and then there's hardwood. Hardwood flooring is another art, you know, and there's all different kinds of hardwood flooring. And you need to make sure that you level the floor underneath you know, if it's a subfloor, are you doing nail down, or do you have a concrete subfloor and you need to make sure everything is level? So, because if you don't ensure that everything's level, then when you're walking, you're going to have, first of all, you're going to have issues going forward, because as you continue to put pressure on it, boards are going to come up, and then that's an expensive problem to fix later on, because you can't just, again, adjust 1 or 2 boards. You've got to rip the whole thing out and level the flooring underneath. So you got to make sure that that's taken care of right from the start. And then there's, you know, all these different, like, I love a chevron floor, and that's an art, making sure that the pattern is consistent, that every board is the same dimension wise, and making sure that you have taken into account the size of the room and how that design is going to play out when it's all installed. That is an art. So make sure you get the right people to do that work for you. Another person that you would need on your team, I have not worked with a lot of architects. Architects are when you are really doing a new build, or if you're doing major, it's kind of like if you're leveling a house and starting over, you would probably need an architect. Who I have worked with is a drafter. And they're kind of the same. Like, the drafter I work with is very well versed with the city codes. They understand what is required by each city, or they can do the research to ensure that we meet everything that the city requires in terms of doing any sort of major renovation and remodel. But they measure your entire house. They measure every single room. They have to draft all of the floor plans. They put where every single window is. They will outline all of the electrical for you. It's very intense work. And this is something that would be required when you go to the city to pull the permit. So again, somebody that you would need to work with. And this is something, once you see it all laid out, then you could make adjustments, especially if you're planning a lot of work in terms of lighting, in terms of your layout for your kitchen. If you have room in your bathroom to make tweaks, major tweaks, this is a great place to see it, because you can see it on paper and make those changes. Now, a structural engineer is somebody that is a specialty also, and generally only required when you're doing major structural changes. So something that you're probably familiar with is if you have a wall that you want to take down. You want to make sure it's on a load-bearing wall, and if it is a load-bearing wall, what to do with it. And let me tell you, it's not that hard. People make it to be like this big issue, but really, we do it all the time. Today's lifestyle, a lot of the older homes that you purchase have separate spaces. So a kitchen that's closed off from your living room, that's closed off from your dining room, and everybody wants that open concept type of space. So what happens? You just take down these walls. I've done a house where it's a one-story ranch, and you walked in and there was the living room, and then you've got your dining room adjacent to it, and then the kitchen was off on its own little corner, and we took down the 2 walls that enclose the kitchen, which is no fun. Who wants to be in a kitchen all by themselves? So we took down those 2 walls, and what did that need? It needed a big beam. It was a large beam. I think it was like a 26-foot beam to keep your roof up, right? But that's all you need. You need a beam to support your roof, and the structural engineer will specify exactly how large a beam you need, what size beam, where it needs to begin and where it needs to end, and how it needs to be supported, and this is all submitted to the city, and the structural engineer has to put his stamp on it. It's not something that you just kind of put together real quick. There's all these calculations that he has to do, all the stuff that honestly you don't want to worry about it, because that's why he went to school and learned it, and he's going to submit it, and he's putting his stamp on it, and the city needs to review it and okay it. And then when the inspector comes, he will make sure that everything that was specified was actually installed. We've had many projects like that, where we're opening up the kitchen into the dining room, into the living room, and again, we're taking down walls. Generally speaking, they're going to be some sort of bearing wall, and so you just need to put a beam up to make sure your house doesn't come crashing down. So a structural engineer would come into play in those situations. And then another person who is also very, very helpful would be someone like myself, who who is a designer slash project manager. So we help the homeowners actually plan everything out in the renovation. And we work with your budget and what your ideas are, and we help pull it all together. So if you've got a very specific budget and you've got this big plan to do all of these things, we will help you figure out what can be done within that budget. And that's based on experience. That's based on knowing what we've done before and what can be done again. And also, it also depends on your style and what you're willing to compromise on, because that's one of the things that's really hard, is that you've got champagne taste on a beer budget, and so how do we fit as much into that little beer budget as we possibly can? And trust me, I have done this in real life. I've done this on TV. We literally squeeze blood out of a turnip. I don't know how it works, but somehow it does. And it's just, as long as you're willing to compromise on some of the things that you're wanting, anything is possible. I think I'll do another video on whether or not to use licensed or unlicensed labor, because I think that is something that a lot of people have questions about. And instead of making this one super long video, I think I will make that a separate video. So if that's of interest to you, leave a message for me below. Another thing that we do as a designer is to help you choose finishes and make sure that the entire plan is cohesive. So one of my clients right now is a classic example where, he sees things he likes, but it does not coordinate with what the style of the home is. I'm like, put that in your cabin, because that's a little too rustic for this modern home we're trying to create here. So it's hard, because there's so many different things that you like and so many different styles, and how do you incorporate that so it still looks eclectic and cool and not schizophrenic? So that's really, really important. And making sure all of the colors work together and things like that. And also, so on the project management side, I think this is more important than anything, because as homeowners, and you're busy, right? You work full time, you've got children that you need to tend to, you have kids activities, you have work activities. Some people travel a lot for their business. And you have a life, and you can't be at home to oversee all of these folks that are supposed to be there to help you bring your vision to life. And that's where someone like myself comes in, where we're managing the entire project, making sure that people show up, making sure that they show up when they say they're going to show up, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're there, making sure that everything that your design plan is being implemented and implemented properly. One of my biggest concerns when it comes to anything is lighting. Replacement of lighting is always a concern, because when I say, because I've had all kinds of stuff happen, even if you outline it, you draw it out, you walk through it with them, somehow it didn't connect, and I get all kinds of funky results, which luckily, because I'm there on a regular basis, I catch it on time so that they can fix it without too much downtime. So for instance, wall sconces. For those of you who don't know what a wall sconce is, let's just say that these are wall lights. So these are usually placed on either side of a mirror in a bathroom. These can be placed on above your fireplace mantle. These could be on your wall, like in an entry along your stairwell. You get the idea. For some reason, there's always this unknown about where to place these. And my general rule of thumb with, let's say, a bathroom wall sconce is having them at about 60 to 64 inches off the ground, because that kind of hits where you want the light to hit, is right here on your face. Well, I've come back and seen it way up high, like it's a bath bar, like a regular bath light. That's not the point of a wall sconce. I've seen them like super high above the mirror. Like, what is the point? Like, you might as well put it up on the freaking ceiling then. Like, I need it right here. And again, this is something that we've discussed, I've outlined it. They even draw it on the wall, telling you exactly, and for whatever reason, it doesn't get done right. So those are the reasons why it's really important to have somebody checking in on the folks who are working to make sure that your vision is being executed properly. Because once they do it and they close up the walls and paint and everything's done, and then you come back and you're like, what the hell is that? It's too late. Well, not too late, but it's a lot harder to fix after the fact. So having a project manager, and whether that's yourself or someone else, or hiring someone, which, you know, this is our full-time job, is to show up, to check on who's there, making sure materials are showing up when you order them, that there's enough material. That's another thing. Happens a lot. The things that slow down a project the most is not having the materials on site so that the folks who are working on site can install it, or running out of material and then we're hustling to go to the store to get more, because somehow, some way, even if, let's say, somebody tells you, they measure and they tell you exactly how much to order of something, somehow it's never enough. Don't understand why. Drives me nuts, but it happens. So rather than waiting for someone to take another 24, 48, 76 hours to get that material to them, having somebody who's available to run to the store is important. So anyway, again, who are all the players in a renovation? Let me just recap for you, because I can talk and talk and talk, and I want to make sure that you guys, we're sticking to the topic here. So a general contractor is generally who is going to be the person that you hire. They are the person that is responsible for hiring all the different subs, and some of those subs include an electrician, plumber, drywall person, a taper texture guy, plaster person, painter. We have a carpenter. These are the people who do all the finishing work, all the woodwork, things like that, installing things. Tile specialist, when you need someone to do tile. HVAC person, whether it's heating or cooling that you need. Roofing person. Flooring, so hardwood floors, vinyl floors, tile floors, carpet. And then if you need a structural engineer, you need an architect or a drafter, and then there's the designer or the project manager. Those are kind of for the most part, the umbrella of folks that would work on any typical home renovation. It's a lot. It's probably more than you ever thought of. So if you're thinking about managing your own renovation, take into consideration there's a lot of players, and some of these roles can overlap between people, but a lot of times we're sourcing out to individual specialists because they know that area. They're good at that area. If there's somebody that says they know how to do it all, I would look at that a little more carefully and be a little more discerning about who it is that you hire, because not everybody's good at everything. You cannot be a jack of all trades. Some people are pretty good at a lot of stuff, but they can't be everything. Okay, so anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions regarding renovations that you would like for me to discuss, please leave me a comment below. I'd love to get feedback from you. If this was helpful, please leave me a comment. Share this with anybody who might find this helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good night. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and visit us at realhousesofthebayarea.com.